Hello and welcome, I'm SimUK, I'm a full-time YouTuber and a games critic. Today I am going to be reviewing Rugby League Live 4, or RLL4. Is this review for you? Well, if you're looking for ultimate realism in your gaming, then yes, this review is meant for you. If however you get upset and cannot embrace the challenge when games are too difficult or just too demanding, then no, this is likely not the right review for you. That being said, everyone is welcome here and I do respect and appreciate all thoughts and opinions, so I do encourage you to leave me feedback in the comments section below. I have asked Red Ant Studios for a review copy of RRL4 many times in the last 12 months, but unfortunately they have chosen not to provide me with a review key. So I bought this title whilst it was on sale for £20, and I also purchased the World Cup DLC for an additional $1.99. As such, I purchased this game as a consumer, and in accordance with Steam's refund policy, I had 2 hours within which to decide if this game was worthy of its price tag or not. At the end of those 2 hours, I spent a short time deliberating on whether or not to keep or return the game, and whilst there certainly were some positive moments and features, I have ultimately decided to return the game as overall I just wasn't quite happy with it. This does mean that I didn't get a chance to delve as deeply into some areas as I would have liked. Prime examples being the career, the stadium creation tool and in-game tactics for example, but I did focus my time on gameplay, graphics and audio, so I do feel quite confident that I have a good grasp of what the game offers and what the game lacks. RLL4 is an Australian-focused rugby league game developed by Red Ant Studios, which themselves are an Australian-based company. It was released on the 13th of September 2017, so yes, this review's coming at you quite a bit after release day, but still the price is $39.99. I picked it up today on sale for £20. Obviously, this is the fourth iteration of Rugby League Live, or RLL4, and there's an RLL5 on the horizon. The new key game features here include the all-new logo and stadium creator. You can create any logo you wish and apply to players' jerseys and stadiums, and you can create your own coliseum, boutique stadium, or your very own local ground. The quick review for those of you who just want a very quick review is this. If you are specifically looking for a rugby league title, you don't mind a strong Australian focus, and RLL4 is on sale for, say, £20 or less like it is at the moment, then I would probably recommend this title to you. If you tend to prefer rugby union, or you are hoping for rugby league experiences outside of Australia, then this is probably still a game worth buying if it's, say, £10 to £15 or less. At the full asking price of $39.99, I simply would not recommend this title to anyone, and now I'm going to try and explain to you why that is. So, if you want a more in-depth review, keep watching.
That's all straightforward there, that goal.
The West Tigers are playing some very good football. Their opponents are shell-shocked, and rightly so.
The user interface is dated, but it's functional. It is simple and easy to navigate, and there is no delay in movement or selection. In-game, there are also a number of advanced features and control mechanisms for real-time tactics, which, despite being a little clunky, are again functional. The in-game options, settings, etc. are pretty decent, allows for making good custom game setups a breeze. Post-game stats are also pretty meaty, certainly well covered, and there are a number of challenges included for you to aspire to. Graphically, I would have to say that RLL4 is mediocre. The most obvious issue for me was with the lighting. It just makes all players look superimposed, and this is exacerbated by the disappointing backgrounds. Yes, this game does include a number of iconic stadiums. No, I was not impressed by any of them. The game boasts over 100 teams and 300 NRL players with photorealistic likenesses. For everyone else, they have simply taken a handful of models and tweaked them a bit, making their faces fatter, wider, changed the skin colour. It is not overly impressive and is considerably more noticeable with the female players, who almost all look to be related. For $39.99, the polish here is second rate at best. Performance seems pretty stable, but the animations themselves are jagged, jumpy and often missing parts. This makes the game look much worse than it actually is, and is considerably more noticeable in the slow-mo replays. In addition to this, I did encounter one or two small game stutters too, but on the most part, performance is adequate. The in-game music is pretty darned good. There are only a handful of tracks available, but I found them all to be pretty decent. Audio, on the other hand, is seriously subpar. The stadium noises are limited to a few short audio snippets, which are simply looped. This is very disappointing, and they quickly become irritating at the end of each game. The commentary is very good, with a healthy dose of Australian banter thrown in, and I really like it.
Stop him. He's in the clear. Breaks through the defence. Great tackle. Straight over the sideline.
That being said, what they say and what you see rarely match perfectly, especially when watching in replays, and I have heard the commentators literally repeat themselves in a single paragraph. I am still super put out and a little bit weirded by the constant reference to the football, but maybe that's an Australian thing. Specifically, this game covers Australian Rugby League, and whilst that's not necessarily a criticism, it does limit the initial content and coverage. When you consider the price that they're asking for, this does begin the uncomfortable descent away from being good value for money. The stadiums included in the game are extremely basic in my humble opinion, and certainly don't deliver any kind of added immersion, a sense of awe or feel-good factor. In short, they are tremendously underwhelming. The ability to create and edit stadiums, logos, teams and players certainly does help to rectify this, but I didn't have time to investigate how easy it is to create or install content created by the community. There appears to be no Steam Workshop access, so I can only assume this is done in-game or via a website. There are a number of game modes and predefined leagues to keep you entertained, and the inclusion of women's rugby I'm sure will please many. But the lack of attention to detail in regards to women's rugby, that's shocking. The game does excel in a couple of areas, and I really do mean it excels in a couple of areas. The in-game real-time tactics, for example, which is, for me, an absolute winner. Although I do detest, and I mean detest, the foresight aspect in the strongest of ways. For me, this is nothing short of cheating. There are tutorials in the game, but they are severely limited and lack important information, like for example, how to actually kick off. It took me 20 minutes to find a tutorial on YouTube which explained what you needed to do, which is pull the right thumbstick back and then push it forwards in order to kick. When completing tutorial tasks, there also seems to be no way to reread the instructions after you have started, and there is little feedback really to show your progress, mistakes or guide you. A lot more could and should indeed be done here. The controls are simply contrived and for no viable reason. It might be an attempt to give the player greater control, but in reality it just makes the game less accessible for new players and more convoluted for those who are willing to stick with it. I couldn't see any alternative control method options, and the ability to reconfigure controls, as far as I could see, was sadly lacking too. For a PC-based game, it is quite odd to have absolutely no support for keyboard and mouse. This makes me think this is a bit of a ported console title. There were some moments, and I do mean serious moments, where the game felt absolutely amazingly realistic, and at those times the game was a lot of fun. This game is so close to having it all, and just a few alterations here and there would have made this game 10 times better. I'd happily delve into what those changes should be, but I doubt very much whether Red Ant Studios are interested in listening to the views of a pom like me.
defence with a short ball.
The potential for replayability certainly exists. There's a career mode from the perspective of a rookie, a star player, or even a coach. This ensures that the game offers a lot of varied gameplay time. There's also a number of preset leagues, fan-base created content, and the World Cup DLC, which adds even more gameplay opportunities. So yes, in terms of replayability, the game scores very highly. Gameplay is the area where the majority of my time was spent, and also where a majority of my issues and concerns stem from. I really did want to like this game. I need a decent rugby game back in my life. I haven't had one since Jonah Lomu Rugby, and I have tried quite a few. I must say that RLL4 was very close to filling that void, as it does have some truly great aspects to it. A much appreciated career, advanced on-the-fly tactics, content creation tools, and more, but ultimately it just misses the mark in a few key areas. The control mechanics in many ways are exceptional, and when it works as intended, the feeling of immersion is astounding. For example, when you're playing rugby in real life, you use your strength, your weight, and your arms to push, pull, or drag an opponent to the ground, and you use a similar technique in order to break a tackle and push your way through. In RLL4, you can use the right thumbstick to control that push-pull weight transfer while still using the left thumbstick to move. So you can be pushing right but running left, and when that works, it is brilliant. Holding a player down until the ref warns you to leave him, that's immersion right there. For me, this is one of the best aspects of this title by a long way. I like this whole feature a huge amount, and it was almost enough for me to recommend the game on its own. Interestingly though, trying to select a player that you want is considerably more frustrating. Left button selects the player nearest the ball, according to the game. Right button allows you to swap between the three closest players nearest the ball. Sounds okay, right? But it doesn't feel natural. You can also hold down left button and use the right thumbstick to freely select the player that you want. So why not just have left button grabs the player nearest the ball to the left, and right button grabs the next player nearest to the ball on the right? Why have a third option? Why have a fourth option? Maybe, given enough time, this could be learnt and actually offer me more control overall. But it is certainly a hurdle to new players, and I still maintain it's unnecessarily convoluted, and it's more likely to result in missed tackles and frustration. Kicking is another area that just doesn't feel quite right for me. The whole control mechanism before starting the kick animation takes far too long, and you ultimately get smashed. Maybe given more time I would get faster at this, but for 2 hours I managed to just one kick, and that was a chip and run, which in complete contrast is super easy to perform, and even though I played on the hardest AI setting, it was incredibly effective. I have seen a video since making this review, and I found that you can preload the kick, something that's not taught or shown to you in a tutorial at all, and maybe that would have made things a lot better. Overall, the control implementation I think adds a level of skill to proceedings, and that's a good thing, but after 2 hours, I'm not a fan of how it works. The AI for me on the hardest level seemed okay, by which I mean I was suitably thrashed. There were some great moments where I nearly broke their defence and scored a try, but alas that never happened because even when I've got a 10-15 yard head start, they always seem to catch up with me. Apparently this is an upgrade from previous releases and a number of snowflakes don't like it. I'm not a snowflake, I was thrashed repeatedly and I loved it. To be realistic, the AI needs to be capable of challenging me, even to the point of beating me when I play well and do everything right. That's just competitive sport, and it makes for some of the greatest sporting moments in history. If you want an example of that, just Google Wallabies versus All Blacks in Sydney 2000. Everybody played exceptionally well. It's probably the best game of rugby that I've ever seen. There are more issues relating to the running mechanics, the tackling and the passing. Running requires a turn to always be curved rather than a sharp and more immediate right angle turn. This has numerous implications. For example, when trying to make an accurate run down the line, for example, you will always be slightly left or right of the line that you were really aiming for. The same applies to trying to position yourself for a tackle. Tackling and avoidance tackling, plus the tackle animations, they all lack variety. Despite the actual tackle mechanic being pretty advanced with 5 available tackle types on offer, and of course you have that right thumbstick weight feature which I mentioned earlier. What seems to happen when you apply a shimmy or a sidestep is that the defending player just freezes still, completely freezes, whilst the attacking player just moves easily and freely to the side. If this was a cartoon, the defending player would be saying, "Where did he go?" It's so frustrating, but on the flip side, when you manage to wriggle your way through a tight defence, it does feel and look pretty darn good. To sum everything up that I've said in gameplay, I would say that it's all 99% almost perfect, by which I mean every aspect is just shy of being perfect. Unfortunately, when you combine them all together, it just detracts too much from the overall gameplay experience. The career is a massive opportunity, but unfortunately there isn't a camera angle which focuses on your player alone. This means that for a lot of the gameplay you will be completely off camera if you're a winger like me, and relying upon a red arrow to make sure you are in position. It's simply not ideal. I would also like the ability to run backwards. So a tackle has gone in, you need to get back onside. Why can't I continue to look at the ball and just run backwards instead? Unfortunately, what you have to do is turn around and look in the same direction in which you run. It just really irritates me, it breaks my immersion. Also, the tactics and on-screen tactical info is brilliant, but I would rather like to be able to turn the entire UA overlay off and just have the players. I'm not entirely sure if this is possible. I basically ran out of time before I could make this work. Overall, I have to say that I have huge respect for what Red Ant Studios have done here. There are an awful lot of positives, and genuinely, it's only really the price which eventually convinced me to return this title. RLL5 is on the horizon, and they have been asking the community what features they want to see. If they can listen to feedback and implement the key changes whilst maintaining AI difficulty and the features on offer here, then I think RLL5, which is, as I say, on the horizon, could be something truly special, but I guess I will just have to wait and see. So, it's the best rugby game I have played since Jonah Lomu Rugby, but it's just very just fallen short of my expectations, and the price is a bit too high for the lack of polish that they apply. I think Red Ant Studios would make more sales and have a bigger player base and community, and potentially they'd even make more money if they just adjusted their pricing structure or even put the game on sale a bit more often. There are moments of hyper-realistic gameplay and it's serious fun at times, although that's fairly brief to be fair. It's got longevity, it's got lots of leagues, a career and the DLC for the World Cup. There's additional control over push and pull drag techniques, plus the control to hold down until you want to release. There's some slick movement, but it's rare and exceptionally good fun when it's working. There's the in-game tactics and, of course, the career. Unfortunately, this is all let down by the camera, the customization and the controls, all of which could be improved with a few small changes. The convoluted control systems unnecessarily, and it's overly complicated of very simple things. Animations are jagged, jumpy, limited, and they appear to be missing sections, and the lighting and the stadiums or backgrounds are just horrendous in my humble opinion. Character face scans are too limited, especially with the female characters, and I'd like to see button customization being added to the game. It definitely needs better lighting and better animation. The price tag is too high. I think they're overpricing this game and they're losing player base and possibly potentially profit by overpricing this game. And basically, RLL5, I just really want it to have more of the same because there is so much good here. It's a really, really, really good attempt. Just missing the mark for me. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Till next time. Goodbye.
The two-man tackle. That is tackle number 4 completed. Widder. What a step. One-handed offload. Wrapped up. No way.